Hello, David here. This is kind of turned into like a video diary of what's going on in my spiritual life and things I'm experiencing. Even though I record most of the stuff on a tape recorder that I want to go back to and then try to develop those things. And unfortunately, I forget a lot of stuff. It doesn't stick with me, and and Satan deliberately tries to keep good things from sticking to you. Yeah. We're getting ready to watch something about sticky love that I was watching and decided to record something. But even in the last two videos I just made, I was talking about how things stick to us like an infection. And in videos prior, I talked about how spiritual things are caught more than they're taught. And I'm going to, when I get time, I'm going to explore all this stuff. I'm going to break it all down. I'm going to get it all down to a complete science, a total understanding of all this stuff. Because I've always wanted to master the mind. Because I remember one time, like for example, me as someone with ADD, I live in a spiritual, it's a matrix, which I know most Christians don't understand this kind of stuff. But people live in this and they don't know it. Basically, with ADD, you live in your own world. It's a daydream world, right? Now, science knows that we all live in a informational world. That means everything around you. Some people even look at this place we live in as a holographic world, because it's just bits of information, right? Everything is bits of information. So, like in the movie Matrix, they just programmed like a dream type state. But what's interesting about information is I see two things similar to information. I maybe shouldn't be sharing such things, but I think other people know these things that really think deeply. But information is, or consciousness, or reality, it is your reality, right? Everybody lives in their own little reality, right? Based on how they view the world. And I hate to throw this one out here, but I'm really getting tired. I'm gonna throw it out there. If you're a black person in the area that I live in, these people live in a past reality. Like me, I don't give a damn if you're black or white. I don't give a damn. To me, that doesn't mean a damn thing. But it's starting to mean something in this particular area I live in because of culture. And I'm going to take a pause for a second and grab my coffee, so just bear with me. But culture is this informational thing that creates a reality. I'll be back in just a second. It's called spiritual DNA, or... Anyway, let me get my coffee. But, you know, people share information and it becomes their matrix or their reality. And people, unfortunately, are stuck in the past. I mean, maybe I'm different than other people, but I never gave a damn about whether people are black or white. It didn't make any difference to me. In high school, the people that were black, they were my best friends. And they seemed better than the white people. But that's based on their character and their personality, right? There was something, they were better. And like you said, that has nothing to do with skin color. But then I encountered another type of black people in a culture. See, every area has its own culture. Like in my area, you know, there was a black guy that lived in our neighborhood, and see, I even hate saying black or white. That's so stupid. Only an idiot. I mean, if I have a black Cocker Spaniel or a white Cocker Spaniel, what the hell's the difference? Stop this stupidity. A dog is a dog, and a human being's a human being. We're all the same. We have a mind, heart, soul, and a body. And skin pigmentation don't mean a damn thing. Only an idiot, only an utter idiot thinks it does. And that pisses me off. It pisses me off that people would actually think that skin color means anything. That's so stupid. It's like if I go out and get a suntan, my personality's going to change. Bull crap. But anyway, I encountered a guy that was black at work. And I even hate to say he's black. I wouldn't even notice if he was black if it wasn't for his character, the way he acted and the way he treated me. That's what made me notice that he was black. Because I don't give a damn, that doesn't mean anything to me. It's ridiculous. But his character caught my attention. See, we all live in our own matrix based on information. A person who has ADD lives in a matrix of daydream. Of what, for example, when you stress about something, you're actually daydreaming. And you realize that. When you stress, you have to be thinking about something and you're actually daydreaming. Or thinking about it. It's the same damn thing. It's the same thing. And people with ADD get infected very easy with things, and they stress a lot about things, and they daydream a lot. And they live in that world. And I lived in that world all my life. And it was a hell world. Because anything that came into my world and infected me lived in my world and ruled in my world and dominated my world, and my life, it many times was hell just by the smallest of evil that someone would project into my daydreaming world in which I lived in, and that was the hell that I lived in. And it's interesting. See, people that do that, let me explain how that works. People that do that think like that, it doesn't mean they're not connected to reality, but it just means they're in a matrix. Like in the movie The Matrix, they were in a total matrix. They didn't know the difference between the dream world, which was a program which was running, and maybe I shouldn't be sharing this type of information. But I think people know about it, obviously. But everybody lives in their own matrix. Whether it's daydreaming or it's a belief system. For example, if you're the black guy that just encountered me at work, I have an authoritative type job, which I can't go into details on the internet what it's about. But sometimes people that are in authority, and if you're white, trigger, they have preconceived notions that if you do something, that you're doing it because they're black, which is horseshit when it comes to me. That's just absolute horseshit. And yes, I cuss every once in a while. I'm not a perfect Christian. I'm not anywhere near perfect, and if you're expecting perfection, well, go somewhere else. I'm still struggling. But my struggle is going to help a lot of people, so I'm just going to be straight up honest. I'm not in the best spiritual place in the world. But I'll tell you what, I'm going to get there. And a lot of people think, like saying shit. We'll just throw that out there. Saying shit. Like that's that's a big sin. Horse shit. I'm sure God doesn't want his Christians, as far as, because it's not that the word's bad, because shit is, well, I don't even know why I'm going down this road. It's obviously something that every animal produces, right? We all produce it, right? So it's a real thing, right? You could call it stool. You could call it many other things, and maybe it's kind of common of me to call it that, but I'm a very common person in some ways. And yes, there are those Christians out there that would condemn me for saying a word like that, but I've learned in Christianity it's not. Sin is not per se stuff of that nature. Sin is or the bad nature. Like God is a brilliant light, right? He's a brilliant light. I probably shouldn't even be recording this right now. Let me just try to relax. But God is like God in the Revelation that you see in the Bible, where Jesus was just beaming this light. Of course, yes, God is totally pure, totally holy. But there's no man like that. I don't see anyone like that. I mean, I don't see anything like that. I don't see any man on the face of the earth. And I could mention names. I could say, is there anyone? Do I see anyone that even resembles that? No. I can think of every Christian. I don't see anyone that resembles the love, the purity, the holiness, when I say holiness, we're talking about not any dark thoughts as in evil and hate, jealousy. Now, there is a holy type jealousy. I'm getting too deep into all this stuff. But these things are more the sin things than what people realize. This spirit that a person can have. It's really an either dark or light. There's so many different spirits that we have that we walk into. And yes, we walk into them by choice in a sense. Now, some people that were like me had no defense. I couldn't control my emotions. Like whatever infected me, because I lived in that emotional state, in that matrix ADD world that which really is a spiritual domination. And I don't want to get into all that, how that works and everything. Because it's very interesting stuff. And we're getting ready to talk. This guy went to hell. He had a thing called Guillain-Barré, which is something I studied as a respiratory therapist. Because we studied anything that would stop anybody from breathing, type diseases, from stuff like, is it Stephen or Stephen Hawking had? All these different things. I dealt with all different patients like that. Anything that would stop someone from breathing, from neuromuscular to, pneumonia to whatever. That's what respiratory therapists, we put people on ventilators and stuff of that nature. Intubated patients, put a tube down their throat so they could breathe and all that stuff. That's what I used to do for 20 years until they raised the education requirements and pushed me out of the field. Then I got to do, I don't want to get into my life story. I can talk about that some other day. But as far as my nature, I didn't even know until 2009. I was watching TBN and I seen, I just lost a $36 an hour job. Just gave $15,000 to Life Outreach International. And then no sooner did that, Satan rose up and snatched my job from me. And I didn't know that, Satan had legal right in Africa because people had made blood covenants to Satan and yada, yada, yada. Which I can't go into all that. I didn't know. And I wasn't in the greatest spiritual place, so Satan had legal right when I helped them to come at me, and boy, did he devastated me. But I wasn't, it's a long story. Someday I'll have to explain it all, perhaps. But I've learned a lot about the psychological, spiritual / world. And for me, with the ADD mindset, it's a very weak mindset. Oprah has the same thing. That's why she won't run for president. A lot of people didn't. I remember one time I was on Twitter and what was Oprah talking about? She confessed that she, what was she talking about? I can't remember what it was. It had something to do with an ADD type thinking that she had struggled with, and that's why she turned to things like Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle. Deepak Chopra is into the meditation thing, and she turned to this guy called Eckhart Tolle because he wrote a book called The Power of Now. The Power of Now, basically, if you want to really look at it in a psychological way, puts you in the now moment. If you're in the now moment, you're not meditating or stressing about things that bother you. And when you're a sensitive person like an Oprah Winfrey type, everything bothers you. Like I'd sit there and watch her getting her hair fixed, and she's dealing with these personalities around her. Everybody has their own spiritual matrix. God said in Genesis, "Where art thou?" Everybody's in a spiritual place, whether they know it or not. Everyone is. And no one's anywhere near an Enoch. I don't see anyone on the earth. I don't care if you've went to heaven once a day. That still doesn't mean that you got to understand, we live in the days of grace. You go to heaven in today's time? That's not comparable to the people in the Old Testament. Because we live in the days of grace where we have access. Jesus said the kingdom of God has come unto you. So people that are having revelation and going to heaven and having all these experiences, that's more of an issue of trust. God trusts them because he can reveal things to them, and he knows they're not going to go back into sin, because if they go back into sin, he's going to judge them. So it's more of an issue of trust than position. Position is an actual spiritual place in which you walk in every moment. That's why God said something to Kevin Zaddy. I think I was recording it yesterday. And God said that Kevin couldn't walk on this fiery sapphire thing in heaven because that was positional, based on where you're really at spiritually, versus and see, he tried to attain it by grace, by the blood of Jesus and all the other things, but that wasn't. See, the difference between positional and the blood of Jesus and the death angel and all that stuff passing over you, the difference between those two things is you're actually transforming it into the image of God, versus grace, which gives you an image that God sees you in. Grace in the blood of Jesus puts you in an image God sees you in, but it's not based on the DNA of God entering into you and you becoming like God, right? Transforming into his image. That's an actual change versus, oh, there it is. See, that's the difference. And you can't attain that by works either, right? Works, you can't work yourself into position. Position is something you do based on your spiritual DNA. It's something that you are. Remember, God said, I am what I am. And see, you are what you are. That's what puts you in a position of different positions. Like an angel is an angel, right? And as you transform into the image of Christ, you are what you are, right? Like so like I can teach this knowledge, but that doesn't mean that I am the knowledge I teach. I can know things like what I'm saying right now, but that doesn't mean I begin to transform into what I know, right? That's why when Forrest Gump says stupid is what stupid does. That means it's an action. Actions are based on what you are. That's why someone like Trump can be way successful than other people, because actions define who he is, and it produces a specific product. It doesn't matter whether you can spell, like Trump can't spell that good or speak that elegant. That doesn't matter. That's intelligence intelligence is only potential energy. It doesn't, until you use it, it doesn't do anything. It's just like faith. It's just like faith without works is dead. Faith, I can have all the faith in the world, but if I don't put an action to my faith, then it's dead, right? If I don't pray or lay hands with someone, then until I do a verb or action, I don't activate my faith. It's just like God is in heaven. He's got all this power. He's died on the cross, provided everything everyone needs, but until an action on our earth releases that, it's as if it don't exist. That's why Jesus said the kingdom of God has come unto you. Just because the kingdom come unto you doesn't mean you are accessing the kingdom. That's why everyone's judged according to their works, because works are really based on action. It's not what you know. Like, I can talk about this stuff right now and totally forget it by tomorrow. Like, I can't even hardly remember the video I recorded yesterday. But I live in a different world than other people. I gotta warm my coffee up. I'm still trying to break into. But to be honest, I'm just trying to break into reality, as far as. And it's really about domination. Things that stress you are things that dominate you. You understand that? That's spiritual domination. And I don't want to teach on all this. I kind of want to save some of this stuff for books and different things. Because even though I'm aware of this stuff, I forget it. And I've already released probably too much than what I should have said. But it's really the core of how all actions of human beings act. I was talking at the beginning of this, how we all live in a matrix. A matrix is either you living in a daydream world in that matrix, or the matrix of your belief systems. Because however you believe is how you're going to act, right? For example, me go get my coffee real quick. For example, this black guy at work. This black guy at work viewed me, thought if I would have been a brother, you know, another black guy, he right away would have shifted into thinking he can trust me. And anything I would have said, he would have believed. Because he didn't view me as a threat. Because I'm in an authoritative position at the job I do, plus I'm white. So right away, when I had to take a priority over this other person versus him, he thought that I skipped him, and I didn't. But because I was white, see, I've seen this 1,000 times. I've seen it 1,000 times. So basically, that's the matrix he lives in, right? That's his own belief systems and perception and reality. And then, of course, it collides with the truth. The truth is, I don't give a damn if you're black or white. All I care about is your character. But I've already started. That exists, and that's a reality. People, by your belief system, you've already put yourself in a matrix. And I don't want to get too teachy on all this stuff. But when you live in a certain matrix and belief system, certain things are going to be sticky to you. The smallest of things somebody does. That's why Donald Trump Jr. wrote a book called Triggered. Because all these people having emotional scars from the past, right? Like Rosie O'Donnell, Jim Carrey, the Judd girl. What's her name? Ashley Judd. She was dominated in the past, right? The black man, he was dominated by the white man in the past. These are scars that people have, and so they always look for the smallest of things, and then they believe that they're being abused. Like Ashley Judd was at an airport, and some guy, I'm sure he treated every female like that. I guess brushed her behind or something. And she went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And she felt like, you know, he was one, like categorized him almost as like a molester of women. She just went nutso. She went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And he really didn't do anything. But she wanted to destroy him. In the sense she rose to complete hell when getting fired. But that's what people do. They get triggered by some scar they have in the past, which is their matrix of what they live in. I guess I'm having the same trouble at work right now. Because I've been scarred by a lot of things people have done in the past, and I'm starting to get sensitive because the same type of behavior happens over and over and over, and I'm starting to become a little sensitive to it. That's interesting. Huh. Yeah, I guess I am. So anyone can become that way, but I'm dealing with continual abuse, whereas people like that, it's not a continual abuse thing, you know, it's just something that triggers. And Donald Trump, of course, his type of personality triggers people because they see a dominant personality and they get triggered. I gotta get off here. But it's a real thing, you know. People think this is bullcrap, but I'm not stupid. I've been studying the mind for I've been studying the mind and spiritual things and things of this nature since about 2008 very intensely. And you can't fool me, and you can't fool God either. When people die, there's like people that have no clue that they're on their way to hell. They die, and all of a sudden the veil of all these things that I just kind of talked about that seem to be veiled in society are unveiled, and all of a sudden the truth is there, and the truth speaks to them, and they know 100% why they're going to hell or wherever they're going, especially if it's hell, because all of a sudden the veil's pulled off and they see completely clearly. Jesus said, you have eyes to ears and ears, you have eyes to see and ears to hear, but yet you see and you perceive not. See, we get caught in these belief systems and these certain mentalities, and we can't see. But some of us do see. And then some people say that some of us that can see can't see. And that's kind of everything that's going on in politics is every action that a person's doing is based on their belief system. I don't want to get too deep on all this stuff. I have to get off here. Let me just record something on this sticky love thing, because these sticky things can stick to us, whether they be good or evil. And this kind of tied in with this. Let me play this real quick, because this is about sticky love. Usually bad things stick to us, like when Donald Trump Jr. wrote a book called, and I've never read it, I just know about this kind of stuff, so it's simple to me. He wrote the book called Triggered, and I don't even know what he wrote in the book. I have no clue, but I know what triggered means. I mean, someone triggered some garbage in your past and then brought that reality of that garbage up, and then you attack the person who triggered that when that's the person that you're really attacking is really the person from your childhood or that abused you in the past. And you're trying to destroy or attack that person that triggered you. Especially if you became a celebrity and you have fame, and then fame gives you a degree of power. But I don't want to get into all this too deep. I don't have time for that kind of stuff. But let's just listen to this sticky love, because this is an opposite. This is how Christians are supposed to be. Now, the only way you're going to become like that... Okay, the Spirit just showed me something real quick. What the Spirit just said something to me, or my gift, spiritual wisdom gift. It just said that... Okay, here's what it just said about this particular topic. It just said that as you transform into the image of Christ, things of spiritual good nature stick to you. But if you're in the image, if you're in a bad spiritual place, like God said to Adam, where art thou? And everybody's always in a spiritual place, whether you realize it or not. If you want to transform your spiritual place, well, then go to church, where the spiritual place is in a different spiritual place. Like, for example, the Brownsville movement. It was a different spiritual place. You had heaven. You had an atmosphere of heaven in a church. And anybody can do that. You don't have to go to the Brownsville church. You can do that in your own house. You can do that anywhere at any time. We all have that power. You just have to know what to do. It's not really that complicated. I mean, there's so many things. But anyway, what the Spirit just said to me is that as your nature is moving in one direction or another, because we're always moving, we're like a boat on the water. You ever seen a boat? You put it out in the water, next thing you know, you're way out away from the shore. Excuse me. I always wake up with allergies. But you're always moving in a spiritual place. Always. That's why you can feel real spiritual and go to bed with God illuminated all over you. And then when you wake up, you feel like, whoa, where am I? You can shift, even just from sleep. it's like you have to start rowing in the spiritual atmosphere toward a certain direction, and we're always going someplace spiritually. We're always moving spiritually in one direction or another. And you in a water, you use a thing called an oar, right? You're moving in a spiritual direction, and water is a good representation of spirit, right? So whether you're aware of it or not, you're always moving into a spiritual direction. And then if you've ever seen space where like you have a black hole, but let's change it into water and spirit instead of space. Space is a place you can drift just like water, right? Outer space is a place you drift, right? But so is water. And let's say you had a great big old, let's say there was a hole in the bottom of the ocean, or in some areas you see these holes where water's being sucked down these holes just like down a drain. When you get near a person that's a spiritual vacuum, they'll suck you in. And you'll be sucked into their matrix. You'll be sucked. That's why the Bible says, Solomon says, if you answer a fool, you become like him, because you've been sucked into their spiritual vortex. And it really is a spiritual vortex. And we have to learn how to navigate. And then the Bible talks about handling serpents, right? What happened in the Garden of Eden? In the Garden of Eden, Satan sucked Eve into a dark spiritual vortex that she didn't escape from. And when she went to, have you ever seen people that study astronomy and things like that believe that if you enter a black hole, then you pop out in a different dimension, right? Same thing if you got sucked down a drain in the water, or the vortex in the water. If you got sucked down that, you would enter into another dimension, right? Another area. But when you encounter these people that live in these black hole spiritual vortexes, they are what they are. They are where they are. They're in hell, right? They're in a hell vortex, in a spiritual vortex. And when you get near them, the gravity, just like gravity in space, you get near these people, and they'll suck you in. Because the gravity, the spiritual gravity of them, just like satellite can fall, be rotating around the Earth, and all of a sudden it gets too close to the Earth, the next thing it smashes and crashes and burns, right? Well, that's what can happen to you in your Christian life when you encounter one of these spiritual vortexes. And I hit a couple vortexes last night at work, and I felt like I crashed and burned spiritually. So the Bible talks about you can handle these serpents, right? In the Garden of Eden, I gotta warm my coffee up again. Prayer is one way to defend your guilt, because remember in the Lord's Prayer He says, "Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, we forgive us. Lead us not into temptation." Now, people think temptation is. Christians think that temptation is, sexual things or I don't know, drinking and all these other Christian things, but that's really not what it's all about. Look at the Garden of Eden. It was just a belief system that got transformed. I don't know why Christians think that. Look at the greatest sin there ever was. It had to do with just believing something that wasn't true. Look at the temptation of Jesus. Was it sexual? So when people think of temptations, I don't think they're really seeing it correctly. I don't think Christians are really discerning these spiritual traps and black holes. I don't think they're seeing it clearly. because a lot of churches just, oh, I got tempted to drink, or but usually if someone's tempted to drink, there's already something else, some other demonic force that's already dominating them, and drinking is just the next level of a level they've already been weakened to. Like in the Bible it says, if you doeth not well, sin lieth at the door. Don't you understand that? So you're not going to even be tempted to drink if you're doing well. Temptation doesn't happen until you're not doing well. Then temptation is there. But the scripture was coming to me last night was handling serpents. And something, you got these churches out there that handle serpents. Come on, man. In the Bible, do you see an example of a serpent? Is it really people picking up a bunch of snakes? Not that a Christian couldn't, by faith, just like Daniel, who the angels locked the jaws of the lions. That's not even what he's talking about. Handling serpents is handling these people that are endued with satanic power. For example, when Jesus handled Peter, first he discerned that Satan was there, and then Satan's the serpent, right? A serpent is something it's hidden. A person who's a serpent is something that's hidden, like Peter had Satan in him, even though Peter was Jesus' best friend. He discerned the hidden serpent. So that's how you handle serpents, because these serpents are hidden in people. And there's also spiritual forces that we need to break, like Sid Roth just got finished talking about Baal or Beelzebub. You got to bind the strong man. And what's very interesting is it was either today or yesterday I was streaming on Twitch, and I was just talking about this guy that named Doobs in my chat, which is one of my friends. He was just talking about this dream he had where this entity appeared and said his name was Beelzebub. And we were just talking about that yesterday, and then this morning before I went to bed, after I got my butt kicked by 2 satanic encounters at work, I was sucked into the black holes of 2 people that satanically nailed me. And that goes back to handling serpents. I didn't handle them very well. I got to figure out how to handle serpents, because I don't know how. And I felt they just had the authority over me, and I wasn't very happy about it. Then I come home, and then I watch that thing on Sid Roth about Baal, about binding Baal. And I know there's demonic forces at my job, because there's injustices at my work. The job I do, it's kind of like the steps. It's kind of like the step Cinderella and the stepsister. The job I do isn't for the company; it's a stepsister company in which they pay us less, and the people that work for the company get treated like the real daughters, and I'm like the stepdaughter. So I'm already perceived as dirt because I'm not getting paid as much as them, and I'm doing more work than them. So I'm already like the step. It's an Egypt type job what I'm doing right now. So to get out of Egypt, when you're in Egypt, you get afflicted, like Moses, killed a man because, and that's how you get. you get like a Moses type mentality where you get angry because there's all kinds of injustices, and it's an Egypt type job. We're always in a spiritual place. And so Sid, I was just talking about that. I didn't even know Sid was going to even post a video about Baal or Beelzebub, and I was just talking about it with someone and even researching it on the internet the day before. I can even find probably the video of my webcast where we were talking about it. I don't have time to stick it on here. You can just take my word for it. But on my Twitch thing, I could bring it up right now and show where we spent about 10-15 minutes talk. We went on Wikipedia and was looking at Baal and Beelzebub. For 15 minutes we were sitting there looking at it, and this was the day before I knew that Sid was going to post something about Baal. So, of course, when Sid started talking about it, I was just talking about it the day before, because this guy had a dream about it. So I think it's God trying to show me that there's a spiritual force going on at work. And I watched them. I still need to study the message. But yeah, it's always a satanic powers. There's always satanic powers at work. And in handling these serpents, these spiritual forces, is what I felt. I just felt like they had authority. These two people at work, they double teamed me. And I honestly went home and I was about ready to quit my job, to be honest with you. But there's spiritual forces. I mean, Satan has spiritual forces in people. And then he sets other spiritual forces to defend you. I see it in my jobs. Every job I've had, I see God. Like right now, my boss, which is a spiritual force of good, just got afflicted. And he was in the hospital, but he showed up at work today, but he was very weakened. So Satan's attacking him because he can't attack me at work until he takes him out. Because that's a barrier. Just like Trump's trying to build these walls, that's a barrier. Satan can't penetrate that wall. That's like a wall, having a boss that upholds righteousness. Just like one of these guys was talking about the foundations. Keanu Bridges was talking about the foundations. Foundations can't be torn down until you tear down the wall, right? Then once the wall's down, then the city's overrun, right? So Keanu Bridges had a book talking about these ancient foundations. And a foundation is a truth. Do you understand that? A foundation is a truth. And as you erode a truth, it's like tearing down a wall. So this boss at work that Satan's attacking right now, he's weakened, and Satan's trying to remove him so that he can attack me, because so far every accusation about me has hit that wall, just like a arrow that hits a wall, or a cannonball hits a wall. And Satan can't penetrate. He can't get at me because of this wall of righteousness of this good boss that I had. Now, before I had an evil boss, and all it took was one lie in him, and he attacked me, and all hell broke loose like I've never ever seen in my entire life. He came against me, even got me in court. He couldn't really do much in court, but he really destroyed me. I was out of work for 9 months. I was in total depression. But Satan had broke down that wall, and I had sinned at the time. I had sinned, so he had legal right also. Anytime you sin, Satan has right to kill, steal, and destroy. And I was faltering, and he penetrated, and took me down hard. That was the hardest, I think. He almost killed me too. Almost had a heart attack a couple of times. But Satan's been trying to kill me for a long time. Long time. And what's interesting is he's always hit me in the head. 5 black guys hit me in the head 33 times. Another time when I sinned and Satan got access, threw me down. Somehow he had an animal. This might sound crazy. You had an animal trip me up on a bike. And yes, Satan can enter into animals and control them. I've seen him do it before. Actually seen it happen. I've literally seen it happen once. Well, without a doubt. I was talking to this one Christian on the phone, and I was getting somewhere with him Christian-wise, and all of a sudden an animal, like my own dog, started doing this crazy possessed behavior, which I know it was possessed by Satan. A demon, basically. Not Satan, but a demon. And it literally was, I've seen it. And I was talking to, and it just broke our focus. I almost had him turn toward God, and just, that's crazy how Satan actually entered into an animal to stop that as I was conversating with this guy on the phone. I'm not saying this for real. I even remember the guy's name. His name's Keith H. I'm not going to say his real name. But that was bizarre. You see a lot of stuff when you live the Christian life. You see a lot of supernatural stuff. But I am out of time. I have a minute left. And I'm going to stick to getting off here in a minute. Let me play the sticky love thing real quick. I can play that while I'm... So we need to get to a place where good things stick to us and not bad things. We got to learn how to handle serpents. And... bind Baal and bind all the spiritual powers. And anyway, let's play this.
Two massive iron doors opening and screeching on hinges.
For such a time.
The prayer that got you back, what do you remember?
And suddenly I became aware that the horrific pain that I had endured for all those years since the onslaught of the Guillain-Barré was gone. I felt more alive than I had ever felt before. And the pain was gone. I felt so great, I slid out of the truck. I walk about 15 feet away, and I'm feeling as though a heavy, wet overcoat has been taken off from me, and all the pain has gone with it. And then I look back at the truck, and there's someone in my truck, and I'm absolutely enraged. Who would dare get in my truck? And not only that, he's sleeping on the steering wheel. The moment when I realized that the guy in the truck was me was truly earth-shattering.
The next thing that happened, you're flying, but there's no airplane.
Finally, I'm saving on fuel. But I began to rise. I can look through the rear window of the truck and see my body slope over the wheel. I'm over the truck. I can look down in the bed of the truck, Sid, and see my toolbox. And being a former pilot, I'm a good judge of altitude. And I'm at suddenly 100 feet, 200 feet. I'm drifting slowly backwards, and I'm rising. I'm rising, and I am terrified. I can look out over the countryside.
I'll tell you what, hold that thought. He finds himself in a very unusual place, almost a crossroads between heaven and hell. When we come back, we'll find out what he did about it. He actually heard hell and demons calling him by his name. Be right back.
We'll be right back to It's Supernatural.
Call
now and get the Heaven Package, which includes James Woodford's brand new book, Heaven, An Unexpected Journey, and Sid Roth's best-selling book, Heaven is Beyond Your Wildest Expectations, plus Sid's 2-part audio CD set, Life After Death. This entire Heaven Package includes 17 different people sharing their first-hand encounters with the afterlife. Yours for a donation of $39. Shipping and handling is included. Ask for offer number 9478. You will receive James D. Woodford's brand new powerful book, Heaven, An Unexpected Journey. Through this book, you will read about his first-hand experience with heaven, angels, and the afterlife. Encounter the glories of heaven and the stunning reality of the unseen world. Understand what it's like to hug an angel. Encounter the chilling realities of hell and the sights, sounds, and sensations of heaven. You will also receive Sid Roth's best-selling book, Heaven is Beyond Your Wildest Expectations, and his 2-part audio CD, Life After Death. Together, they include testimonies of 17 people who have given amazingly similar accounts of their experiences with the afterlife. Through the book and 2-part audio CD, you will understand what happens the moment a person dies, learn about God's tunnel of light, hear powerful testimonies like Bill Weiss, who encountered both the horrors of hell and the bliss of heaven. Read and hear firsthand accounts about the awesome beauty of Jesus, full of overpowering love and compassion. Gain faith to believe God for your own healing as you understand that God has a body parts room in heaven where miracles are waiting to be accessed. Take a tour of God's heavenly library with volumes of books that contain the accounts of each person's life. Learn how your prayers are converted into visible fire and rivers that ascend to heaven. Don't miss out on getting the Heaven Package, which includes James Woodford's brand new book, Heaven, An Unexpected Journey, and Sid Roth's best-selling book, Heaven is Beyond Your Wildest Expectations, plus Sid's 2-part audio CD set, Life After Death. The entire package includes 17 different people sharing their first-hand encounters with the afterlife. Yours for a donation of $39. Shipping and handling is included. Ask for offer number 9478. Call or you can send your check to Sid Roth. It's Supernatural. P.O. Box 39222, Charlotte, North Carolina 28278. Please specify offer number 9478 or log on to sidroth.org. Call or write today.
We now return to It's Supernatural.
People are on the edge of their seat right now. So you start going up, and it sounds, I've heard this story from others before, sort of like a tunnel you're going through. What is this?
When I got to about 1,200 feet, I tilted my head back, and this beautiful golden circle appeared in the sky. And then the center filled with gold. It opened, and suddenly it was as though I had put all the thrusters on the jet engines. I went zipping into this tunnel of light, which I'm sure many people have heard of. And I'm traveling at tremendous speed. I'm leaning back at about 45 degrees. I have incredible sensation of speed, but typically you feel the wind in your face. There was no wind and there was no rushing noise of the sound of travel, and no jet engines. and tremendous speed. I bet, I'm guessing Mach 1 possibly. And within a very quick period of time, I recognize that there's a brilliant light at the end of this tunnel. I come to it, it's covered in mist. I step out because I feel the tunnel closing behind me. I put my foot down, the mist cleared, I look down, and I can't believe it. I am standing on the most incredible green grass you could ever imagine. I now know where the saying comes from. The grass is always greener on the other side. They're talking about heaven.
But I've been told the colors are, it's greener than any green we have here.
If we have a spectrum of colors on Earth, heaven has 10,000 times 10,000 more. It is a feast for the eyes.
Okay, but then you see some darkness.
I look up from that beautiful grass that radiated light from underneath my feet, and there's as though a dividing line, a median has been drawn in front of me. To the right, there's this beautiful mist-colored field. The mist is laying over it. We pilots call it ground effect. There's beautiful flowers showing through it. But then to the left of that line, Sid, it was so different, because that beautiful green grass went from green to brown to scorched to black and then dropped off in a crevasse. And I stepped forward and looked down into this cold blackness. And then I saw something like a dim light at the bottom, like a light of fire, red fire. And suddenly I heard the strangest sound, like two massive iron doors opening and screeching on hinges that had not been used in a long time. And suddenly emerging from those doors was the most hideous creature you could ever imagine. Hollywood could never duplicate what I saw. So I'm looking, I see this thing coming out, and suddenly I'm assailed by this horrific smell that comes out of that pit, an odor of death and decay and of things long dead, things that should never see the light of day. And it gazed up at me, and when its fiery eyes looked at me, it started to make its way up the wall of that pit. But its body, Sid, was formed of like a rolling mass of dark cloud with a face on it. And I heard the most horrific things. Something screaming within the body of this creature. And then what absolutely horrified me was I heard my name being called. This creature knew me. It knew me. And it was coming for me. And I was terrified. I mean, I love to tell you, I stood there and wanted to do battle. I was terrified. And it reared up out of that pit over me. And the most hideous face imaginable, massive in its size, snarled at me. And there was this feeling of an anticipation of glee, that it couldn't wait to get its claws on me. And I was so horrified, I turned from the darkness toward the light. We are creatures of the light. And I automatically turned toward the light. And when I did, I sensed this creature, its breath on the back of my neck, the stench of its breath, and I felt a sharp claw move down my back. And it was at that point, remember I said, there are 6 words and the prayers of my family that make it possible for me to be here today. And the first 3 words I cried out in the truck, God forgive me. In my absolute terror, and I had no reason to expect any help from God, I turned myself toward that mist with that creature breathing at my back, and I lifted both hands and I cried out, God, help me, help me. And Sid, instantly, 3 stars appeared in that mist, like distant points of light, but coming rapidly toward me. And I focused on them to keep my mind off what was snarling behind me, because I could hear the saliva from its jaws dropping on the ground behind me. And I concentrated on those lights. They came so rapidly, Sid, incredible speed. My pilot instincts took over. I was afraid they were going to make too fast a landing, but they did a beautiful job. They took form. They were angels. As they approached me, this beautiful light flooded over me, went beyond me and struck that creature. And when the light of the angel struck the creature, it scrambled back down in that hole like a rat running for cover. God had heard the cry of someone that had never turned to him in his life.
When we come back, I want Jim to share about what Jesus, as well as the angels, have. Transferable, sticky love. I've never heard about sticky love. Have you?
We'll be right back to It's Supernatural.
The supernatural knows no bounds, and now there are no limits to equipping you to receive your supernatural breakthrough anytime, any place. ISN, the It's Supernatural online net,
are shown the book of your life. The nursery said.
Tell me about
The
that.
sticky love of God.
Yeah.
The angels came forward and they spoke to me through thought transference. And as they put their wing around me and held me close, I felt so safe and protected. And I reached out to touch the angel's arm. And Sid, when I did, I felt I had been impolite in doing that. And so I pulled my hand back. And when I did, the light of the angel's body clung to my hand, till I got it back about 6 to 10 inches and then let go and went into its body. And that's why I tell people every chance I get, the love of God is sticky. It wants to cling to you.
And you told me that God was in process of replacing all your selfishness, all your greed, all your lust for love. Explain that.
See, let me explain what's going on here. I got like 3 minutes. I'm dressing. Let me explain what's really going on here. See, his nature was changed when he was out of his body, and he was around them. So his nature started to change. So of course the love was sticking to him. But in Genesis, Satan changed our nature so that he could communicate with us via spirit, and you not even know that it's him speaking to you. The Holy Spirit kind of does the same thing. So once you shift into one realm or another, you're going to hear one or the other louder. If you shift toward darkness, you're going to start hearing Satan louder, like in the episode I showed yesterday about how Satan started talking to this guy even though he didn't worship Satan. I think I showed that in the last episode yesterday. So that's how it works. As your nature changes, things will stick to you. So you have to discern. You have to discern evil, and just like in space you see a black hole, you don't want to get stuck in that because even light can escape. And that's the way these spiritual dark people are. They're very sticky. And what does Solomon say? Solomon says, if you answer a fool, you become like him. Do you understand that? And I have about 30 seconds left here, or maybe a minute at the most. Minute and 30 seconds. But that's what happens, is there's always a battle over your nature. There's always been a battle of transforming your nature since Genesis. He changed, when Adam had a child, it was no longer in his image. It was, and that's why we have the born again experience, because you spiritually died. Because you got changed into the image of Satan by Satan's word and his DNA in Genesis. When you accepted that, because God is a holy God. So everybody that thinks Christianity is about smoking and drinking and all that stuff don't understand Genesis. We got fully contaminated by sin in Genesis, by believing Satan's word. And then we got changed into that image. Then Satan's spirit and his type and kind started sticking to us. So of course in his nature, in his place that he was in, the spiritual place he was in, of course the angel of what an angel is started sticking to him. And that's really the contamination of what happened to me, for example, at work last night. At work last night, I came in contact with two demonic people that believed in demonic strongholds against me, even though I was in the truth. But when I became like them, when I answered the fool that said the thing to me at work, there was just foolishness. And see, this is the same thing that happened to cops. Cops have their authority challenged. Their authority should never be challenged. Only in a court of law, in a just atmosphere. If you want to challenge what a cop does to you, well, take him to court. But you don't challenge him in his own turf, in his own word. You have to respect his authority. So we have all these people that are fearless in today's time that of an evil spirit, and they challenge that. But I don't have time to go into this any deeper. I got to go. But I just figured I'd throw that out there real quick. But I've got to end this. Got to go to work. Bye-bye.